Who knew? Russia can't make enough gas anymore. Russia faces inflation threat after Ukrainian attacks. Beijing's hand in the Russian war revealed. US considers countermove. Here's the latest, so you will be in focus. Subscribe and stay tuned. China has increased exports of cables and batteries for drones to Russia, according to Chinese customs data analyzed by the Washington Post. Chinese manufacturers have played a key role in helping Russia's defense industry expand drone production and are now helping develop components specifically designed for combat use, the investigation reports. Washington supports introducing a Ukrainian Victory tariff, or alternatively, a Russian oil tariff, on Chinese goods. The plan envisions a 500% tariff on Chinese imports, with the resulting revenue directed toward purchasing weapons for Ukraine. Andriy Dmitrenko has more on this topic.
China is increasing the supply of drone components to Russia, writes the Washington Post. According to data from China's Customs Service, there has been a tenfold increase in the export volume of certain components from July to August 2025. Chinese manufacturers of commercial drones, which account for 80% of the global market in this segment, played a key role in this. Thanks to them, Russia has been able to ramp up the production of drones equipped with fiber optic systems.
China's strength in producing large quantities of components at cheap prices, and also rapidly coming up with new prototypes and technologies, gives Russia a significant advantage over Ukraine. This is having significant implications on the battlefield, as lighter and longer cables have allowed Russia to expand its range of attacks farther into territory controlled by Ukraine, from a publication by the Washington Post.
The Russian army is increasingly using fiber optic drones, as they are less vulnerable to electronic warfare measures, experts explain. According to an investigation conducted by Bloomberg in July 2025, several Chinese companies are directly collaborating with Russian military enterprises.
This shouldn't be seen as it was at the beginning of the war, as if components are being smuggled in suitcases and bags to Russia. No, this is a centralized supply, a network, if you will, an organized supply chain that operates continuously, like the tentacles of an octopus, delivering from various points around the world to Russian territory.
Ukraine's partners are systematically imposing restrictions on enterprises cooperating with the Russian military-industrial complex. However, to achieve a tangible effect, sanctions lists need to be significantly expanded. The main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense published information about military enterprises of the aggressor country that have not yet been sanctioned.
The main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense on the War and Sanctions portal publishes data on 145 enterprises that are part of or managed by the Technodynamika holding of the Russian state corporation Rostec. Despite the strategic importance of the holding for the Russian military-industrial complex, 86 out of 145 enterprises remain outside the sanctions of the sanctioning coalition countries. Among them are manufacturers of key components for Russian missile systems and armored vehicles. From a publication by the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on Facebook.
As long as Russia can spend colossal sums on continuing the war against Ukraine, it will keep seeking ways to supply its military-industrial complex. The problem can only be comprehensively resolved by depriving Russia of the ability to finance aggression. Kiev's partners are convinced. In the EU, discussions on the 19th sanctions package against Moscow continue. Brussels hopes to reach a consensus before the European Council, meeting scheduled for October 23rd, said EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas.
We are working on the 19th sanctions package to put more pressure on Russia to end this war. The Russian economy is already weakened, and we are further undermining it with our sanctions, so that the Kremlin finally stops financing this war. We have 27 states, 27 different democracies. And so, discussions continue.
On September 19th, the European Commission approved a list of proposals that will form the basis of the new sanctions package. These include a complete ban on Russian liquefied natural gas supplies to the EU until January 2027, expanding the sanctions list for Russia's shadow fleet, a ban on operations of Russian banks and financial institutions, including those operating in third countries, and measures against foreign enterprises cooperating with the Russian military-industrial complex. Reported by Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.
By the end of 2025, Russia could become 60% dependent on fuel imports, according to the Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service. As a result of Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries, the industry has lost a significant portion of its capacity. The problem is quickly spreading beyond the fuel sector. Rising gasoline prices are driving up transportation costs, which in turn increases the prices of consumer goods. Combined with higher VAT, analysts predict a sharp acceleration of inflation. Watch for more details.
Putin simply does not want to end the war against Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump is convinced. Russia is paying a colossal price for its aggression. Its economy could completely collapse, Trump warned.
I don't know why he continues with this war. This war has been so bad for him. He's going into 4 years. He's lost 1.5 million soldiers, probably, close. Certainly in terms of wounded and no legs and no arms and all the things that happen in horrible wars. It's a horrible war. He's got to really settle this war. And you know, they have long lines waiting for gasoline in Russia right now, right? They have long lines. Who thought that was going to happen? And all of a sudden his economy is going to collapse.
The Russian economy is entering its most challenging period in recent years, analysts note. Sanctions, falling revenues from energy exports, and strikes by Ukraine's defense forces on Russian oil refineries are taking their toll. The shortage of investments and lack of production capacity are increasingly felt. Yet, the Kremlin continues to try to convince Russians that everything in the Federation is stable. The authorities see no issues in the domestic fuel market, said Deputy Prime Minister Novak. The absurdity of his statement lies in the fact that an acute gasoline shortage is already evident in more than 57 regions of Russia. Even in Tyumen, where oil is extracted, gas stations are limiting fuel to 30 liters per customer.
Yeah, since October 7th, there's a regulation stating that at one gas station, you can fill up a maximum of 30 liters.
Russian oil companies will feel the consequences of drone strikes on oil refineries, which since early August have affected every third refinery in the country. For almost a year, experts from the International Energy Agency believe. According to the IEA's forecast, oil companies will not be able to restore oil refining to previous volumes until June 2026. After drone attacks that managed to hit more than 20 major refineries in Russia, refining volumes dropped by approximately 10%, from a publication by the Moscow Times.
According to the International Energy Agency, as a result of Ukrainian drone attacks, Russia's refining capacity has decreased by at least 500,000 barrels per day. This is why the Russian government banned fuel exports until the end of the year and is increasing import volumes each month.
The government in Moscow has classified most energy data, including refinery runs and car fuel production, which makes it difficult to make a precise assessment of the drone-related damage. Russia raised its crude exports in September to 5.1 million barrels a day, the highest since May 2023, according to the IEA. Still, the nation's oil export revenues declined to a 3-month low of $13.4 billion, as the agency estimated, from a publication by Bloomberg.
By the end of 2025, Russia could become dependent on fuel imports for up to 60% of its needs, according to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service. Russia has effectively lost a significant portion of its domestic capacity. Now, without foreign currency inflows, enterprises lack resources for modernization, and price regulation in the domestic market creates an artificial shortage.
The fuel crisis gripping Russia is not so much a result of isolated accidents or sanctions, but a reflection of the deep degradation of its energy model. Years of underfunding, technological isolation, and erroneous management decisions have turned a once profitable industry into a system surviving on inertia. After the gasoline export ban in September, the Russian government tried to stabilize the situation, but this step only exacerbated the crisis. External sales allowed for offsetting chronic losses and partially financing industry modernization, from a message on the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine website.
Ukraine has no intention of granting the aggressor country the 6 months to a year needed to restore its refining capacity, and Kyiv's partners plan to intensify sanctions pressure on Moscow. The European Union is preparing its 19th sanctions package, which, according to Bloomberg, will target Russia's shadow tanker fleet, the Kremlin's main tool for bypassing sanctions. Reported by Victoria Chistiukina, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share your thoughts below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.